On the review on the Empire Vanquish. So let's go ahead and take this out of the box. Now, the one thing about the Vanquish, we're starting to see more and more products from Empire, from Key, taking advantage of the intellectual property that they acquired from Smart Parts. Okay, and this is one of those things that you see. You know, basically, when you take a look at the Vanquish, you take a look at the bolt. The very first thing that's going to come to your mind is the shocker. Okay, it's got almost the same exact bolt that is in the Lux, that was also in the shocker, nearly identical. So basically what I think their attempt was going to be with the Vanquish was going to be to take what was originally the shocker, which is now the Lux, and improve on it. Okay, they came out with the OLED board, bolt out the back system, which the Lux already has, actually put a really nice trigger on the Vanquish. And one of the things that they did was, instead of having the regulator in the front, regulator's down here in the bottom. It uses the same regulator as the Mini, as the Axe, as the TM15, as the TM7. It's a good regulator. There's nothing wrong with it. I've got that same regulator on my Axe. You know, dozens and dozens and dozens of cases through it. It's a great regulator. It works great. I will tell you one thing with the Vanquish. This is kind of getting a little off topic here, but most gas through guns, okay, that have come out here. So you see like the new DM14, like the Lux, I mean, like the MacDev Clone GTI, okay, all of these gas through grip frames, most of those in Bob Long guns, all of those you should be using low pressure with, okay. You want to be using 500 PSI or lower on those guns, okay, because the way how the air's got to channel through the grip frame. You want to make sure that you're using low pressure on those guns. Most of those guns don't need more than 150, 160 PSI to shoot anyway. So putting, you know, more than 400 or 500 PSI through the gun on your output pressure, that's just a little bit overkill, and you could wreck the O-rings. Vanquish doesn't need that. Even though there is no macro line on this gun, the air is regulated to its operating operating pressure, which is about probably about 160, 170 PSI. It's regulated before it even gets to the gun, okay? So the air goes in here, it's in the regulator, and then it goes into the gun. So you can put pretty much whatever tank you want in here. I wouldn't put, 850 PSI output pressure, which is like what you would use on a Tippmann on here. I would just put a standard regulator on here, and that's all you need. You don't need a low pressure regulator on here. These regs don't really like the low pressure. Medium pressure reg, the standard reg, is perfectly fine. Okay. Now let's go and take a look at the back. It comes with a really nice gun case, really sharp gun case. One thing that I really like about it is everything is all neoprened and very easy to tuck it all away so nothing gets scratched. Carbon fiber barrel tip. You've got 4 inserts in the box. You've got the 75, which would probably 675, which is probably used for reball. 680 for extremely small paint. 685. Medium size paint, and 690, which would be the standard size paint. Something else too, even though it uses autococker threading on here, very much almost like the Smart Part guns, where it's like almost like 1 turn, 1.5 turn, and you're tightened. You don't have to sit there and spin your barrel on forever. It's like 1.5 turn, and it's locked in there. So let's get out the little toolkit here. Something else that's kind of innovative too is they use the same size Allen key for everything on the gun, okay? It's the same size Allen key to tighten your feed neck as it is to remove your grip frame or your grip screws, as it is to adjust the velocity. Everything on this gun all uses the same size Allen key, which is why you only have 1 Allen key, and it's a ball socket Allen key in the box. Really neat. Let's set that aside. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to come in here, do really quick maintenance on it, and we'll go out and do an efficiency test, and we'll finish up with a conclusion. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and turn it on, and let's go ahead and weigh it. Okay, you can see it's got a nice little OLED board. I'm really curious as to why they didn't use the same programming that they have in the Axe. The one thing about the Axe that's made it such a great seller is how easy it ramps and the extra adjustability that you get out of the axe, especially the Redline board. I was kind of curious as to why they didn't use the same programming in the JT Impulse and in the Vanquish. So anyone that owns an axe knows what I'm talking about on how fast they ramp. And I was just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of bizarre why they didn't use that same program. They kind of went with a different program. It still works fine, but I definitely think the stock axe programming is a little bit more aggressive. Okay, 2 pounds, 2.4 ounces. 2 pounds, 2.4 ounces. So not in the sub 2 pound mark, but actually still pretty light considering he's got the axe reg. It's a very chunky, very big reg. On here, I know the stock axe, I believe, weighs 2 pounds, 5 ounces. Right around there, 2 pounds, 5 ounces, 2 pounds, 6 ounces. So, okay. Now, you're going to notice something here, and this is where we're going to get into some of the problems that, you know, some of the design flaws on the Vanquish. You're going to notice that I stored the bolt not even secured in a place so you could pull it right out. Here's what everybody's complaining about on the Vanquish. And when I took the gun out, you know, within five shots of me shooting at the chronograph, I realized that something was disastrously wrong with the design. The Vanquish uses basically Planet Eclipse detents. Okay, I'm going to show them to you. Okay, it uses rubber Planet Eclipse detents pretty much. They look exactly like what you would get on your E-Tech, on your E-Tech or your LV1 or Ego 11. Okay, use basically the same thing. Something else that they did was stock. It's got the spring in here that pushes the bolt forward. Now, anybody that has ever used a 2002 Intimidator knows that if your bolt goes forward and there's no place for your detent to move, you're going to end up ruining your detents, okay? And that's one of the things, that's one of the problems with the Vanquish out of the box, is that it's got the spring in there, which actually I like to call it a cold weather spring, because in the summertime you really don't need that spring forward. Your gun will shoot just fine without it. You can test it out. You may have to raise your dwell a little bit. You may have to change some settings a little bit, but the gun will shoot just fine without it. All the shockers shot okay for years without it. It does help alleviate one of the problems of the shocker, which is that airlock where you get that shocker puff. It does help that, but try it without it if you have a Vanquish and see how the gun shoots. Mine shot pretty well without it. I didn't need it, but mostly that spring, I would just mostly call that like a cold weather spring. Anyway, back to one of the design flaws is that you've got rubber detents, okay? You've got a bolt that goes forward when there's no air pressure on there. So what ends up happening is you have these detents that are supposed to be like this, and after you store your gun for a couple of weeks, they get bent in the forward position when the bolt goes back. There's no room for them to go. There's no bolt notch or anything on the side of the bolt for the detents to go, so they end up just getting stuck in that forward position because the rubber's stretched out and the bolt's been pushing them forward for so long. Out of the box, my Vanquish did that. Within 5 shots, I was double feeding, triple feeding. I couldn't understand why a brand new gun was already doing that. I took the bolt out, looked down the breech, looked like the detents were there. When I took the detents out, the detents were completely bent forward, and I had to replace them, and then the gun shot just fine after that. So one of the things I feel that Empire needs to do to correct this is somehow, some way, they need to redesign their detents for Delrin detents. Now, the Lux uses the same bolt, almost the same bolt design, okay, that power core with the spring forward, but the Lux uses spring-loaded Delrin detents, okay? So when the bolt goes forward, the detents just go out of the way, and then they're spring-loaded right back. They're not rubber where they bend out of the way. Definitely a design flaw on the Vanquish, and the easy fix is for them to design some sort of detent, either a spring-loaded Delrin detent or something of the matter. That, basically they're probably gonna have to redesign the eye covers as well to allow for the spring, but it's not the end of the world. It's an easy fix. I definitely see Empire fixing this in the future and coming out with a re-release for the existing Vanquish owners, or at least I hope they do, come out with a re-release for the existing Vanquish owners that have spring-loaded detents, so that if you forget to take your bolt out and you store your gun and your bolt slides forward, you don't ruin your detents. You know, it's unfortunate because the fit and finish on this gun is great. I mean, you take a look around the eye covers, it's very, very, I mean, it's extremely perfect fit. It's got great anodizing. The machining is really nice. It's real smooth. You don't see any tooling marks or anything. It's you know, it really has a nice fit and finish, but they definitely goofed with that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the bolt. Bolt is pretty much exactly what you would see in a shocker or a Lux. Out comes the spring. There we go. Been taking apart DMs too much. I've been thinking that that the beer can comes apart, but it doesn't. Okay, so as you see, very similar to a Lux or a shocker. It's got the basically what I like to call the cold weather bolt spring. This one used to be called the beer can, and that's it. So it's got a nice cup face, just like what you would see on the Axe or the Mini. It's got like a soft face, rubber face bolt. Not really that soft, but it's got a little bit of give. And that's it. So as far as maintenance, that's about it. Now, on this, you want to use a thicker lube on these bolts, okay? You do not want to use a gun oil or a super thin lube. Dow 33 works great on these. It worked great on the shockers 10 years ago. It works great. It'll work great on your Vanquish right now. You want something sticky, something somewhat thick, and Dow 33 works really well on these bolts. It's definitely what I would recommend using if you don't have the stock lube. Would be like a Dow 33. And basically how you're going to want to store this gun is you're going to put the bolt in just far enough so that it doesn't push the detents forward. And then when you get ready to play, you're going to need to remember to push your bolt all the way in. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take apart the regulator. Now, all right, let's go ahead and get into the regulator. Now, for the regulator, you're going to need two specialty tools here. You're going to need a 3mm nut driver. Really small one, okay? Tiny one, 3mm nut driver, but you're probably gonna have to order online because it's impossible to find that anywhere. The next thing you're gonna need to do is you're gonna need to get yourself a wide flathead screwdriver, okay? I mean a wide one. This one I believe is almost a 1/2 inch. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna need to get a Dremel, and you're gonna have to Dremel out the middle of it here to allow you to spin the piece that's on the inside of the regulator, okay? And I believe if you take this apart, it's going to void your warranty. That's okay. At least for me, at least. I'll show you what this thing is here on the side. This is basically just the air filter. So if you ever need to clean this out, you just remove it on the side. And, you know, you can kind of brush this off maybe with an old toothbrush or something like that. Just something to clean it up. The air filter actually works really well. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to take the flathead screwdriver. And you see that piece inside there. How it kind of makes a X or a star or a T, you know, or a basically like a cross, but basically like an X. You're going to take this and you're going to put it in there, and then you're going to gently unscrew it. And it's not in there extremely tight. It doesn't have to be extremely tight or torqued down or anything. As a matter of fact, it works better when it's not super tight. Okay, now the reason why you need to drill the notch in your flathead screwdriver is so that you can get around the pin without damaging the pin. Okay, so as you can see there, that's basically what I'm doing there. Now the next thing you're going to do, you're going to need yourself a really small pair of needle nose pliers. Actually, you know what, let's take out the lever first, sorry. Because this is actually what's holding this main piece in place. Put some pressure with your finger because it is spring loaded. Up it comes. So now you've got two pieces, the screw and the lever. And then inside there, there's going to be this little wedge with a spring. Okay, and this is basically what goes up and down. This piece right here is what goes up and down to depress the pin on your on your bottle. Now you just reach in there with a pair of needle nose pliers. Okay, out comes that assembly. Now we're going to need to unscrew the front. Okay, and inside here you're going to have your, it's going to look like a coin and a little tiny super thick spring. Just leave that over to the side so you don't confuse the springs. Okay, now we're going to take our 3mm nut driver, and usually I use a small Allen key. In this case I'll probably use like a 5/64, something like that, to hold this piston here, because this nut driver here is screwed into this piston. Gonna need something a little smaller. So let's go down to the 1/16 inch. Okay, so it's got the piston has some holes in it, so you just put the Allen key into the hole in the piston on the outside of it there, and then that way it gives you a little something to hang on to as you unscrew this. Okay. There we go. And then out comes a thinner spring, and that's what goes in first. Okay. That's it. We've taken apart everything. Now, I'll show you how this looks. Okay. So that's what you need that 3mm nut driver for. Okay, is this reg seat and pin screws into it. Now I would recommend you Loctiting that. You're definitely going to want to use some sort of a Loctite when you take this apart, put it back together again. But that's how that goes. So this spring goes on this side, and then you've got the stiffer spring, your adjustment spring that goes over here. Okay, so that's it for taking apart the regulator. It's really simple. Usually you don't have to do this, okay? Empire recommends just a couple of drops in your ASA, and that's all you need. So, I mean, it's your gun. It's a $1,500 gun. If you want to take apart the regulator, you know, you can do that. You just need to get yourself a flat-bladed screwdriver, Dremel out the middle, so you can take apart the little nut that holds the that whole assembly in that depresses the pin on your tank. And then you're going to need to order a 3mm nut driver in order to take it apart. Now this is the same thing. This is how you take apart all of these regulators from Empire. Okay, TM7, TM15, Mini, Axe. Okay, you take them all apart exactly the same way. Okay, let me get some Loctite really fast. Okay, now we're going to take it and we're going to put it back together again. Now you do not want to forget your thin springs. Go ahead and throw some lube on here. Put the thinner of the two springs in first. Slide it in. Take some Loctite. Put it on the reg seat. Screw it down. Okay. Put a little bit of lube on this. Let's line this up. Okay. Now the most important thing you got to do here when you slide that cartridge back in is you want to make sure that's lined up there, because you're going to need to put this this little door stop on it with the spring in it. That's going to have to go all the way back in, and you're going to want to make sure it's lined up. Okay, and that's what it's going to look like there. Okay. Like I said, that piece in there that you use your flathead screwdriver for does not have to be super, super tight, okay? Just a gentle snug, that's it. If you tighten it up too much, what's gonna happen is this little doorstop piece is not gonna be able to slide up and down freely, and then what's gonna happen is your gun's not gonna degas. Like I said, I'm pretty sure if you take this apart, it voids your warranty. That's okay. It's my $1,500 gun, and if I want to void the warranty and I want to take the regulator apart, it's my, it's up to me to do that. So, okay. Let's go ahead and put the thicker spring and the adjustment coin on this side. Now you are going to have to re-chronograph your gun. After you do this, obviously, so you want to start with your pressure screw backed out. Your regulator adjustment screw that's right here on the front of the ASA regulator. You're going to want that screw backed out, and then when you get to the chronograph, you're just going to want to start tightening it up slowly until you get to the pressure that you need it to be at for your gun to work properly. So that's what I'm gonna have to do next. I'm gonna have to go and readjust my pressure and ready to go. So let's go ahead and go and do the efficiency test on it. We'll come back for the conclusion. All right, we're about to do the efficiency test on the Empire Vanquish. And I'm sitting at just under 4,200 PSI. 106 degrees on the tank. Okay, we're sitting at 293 feet per second. First shot was actually about 295. Go ahead and set this up. Sweet. Okay, it looks like we got about 8 1/4 pods. Thank you. Okay, so let's wrap up the video on the Vanquish. You know, Empire, in my opinion, on this gun is about 95% there. But unfortunately, that last little 5%, you know, they've got to get this right. They've got to fix this part, okay? They've got to fix the detents on it. And it's that time. They need to come out with a kit that allows us to take apart the regulators, okay? If they've got to come up with some little flat blade thing and a 3mm nut driver on the other side, some sort of tool or a toolkit or something, they need to come out with that. I know they don't want to deal with the hassle of people possibly ruining the regulator, but all the companies in paintball have been dealing with that for the past 20, 25 years, and you know, it's not that big of a deal. The regulator really isn't that hard to screw up, and you don't have to take it apart very often. But you know, there's people that are located in all parts of the world, or people that are playing tournaments with these, and if something goes wrong with it, you need to be able at a tournament or PSP or an MPPL or whatever you're at, or at a scenario game or something, you need to be able to fix your gun on the spot at your own bench. And because it's not always convenient to ship the gun to New Jersey or wherever Paintball Solutions is at. Okay, you know, guns these days, people spend a lot of money traveling to events, setting up for events, preparing for events, practicing for events, and when their gun goes down, you know, not everybody has the luxury of having a backup marker, and especially somebody who's going to drop $1,500 on a Vanquish. You know, they may not have the luxury of having a backup marker, and they may do more harm than good trying to get in there and repair it, but it's their gun and they should be able to do it. And in this case, Empire, especially for the Vanquish, you know, and even for the Axe PDD, carbon fiber, stuff like that, they need to come out with the tools to let people take apart the regulators. Even if they put a stamp on there, if you use this, it voids your warranty. You know, when you're at a tournament, you've got 30 minutes left to go, or you're at a scenario game and they're about to start the game and your gun's down. At that point, warranty doesn't matter, nothing matters. You need all the tools at your disposal to fix your gun right there on the spot so you can get out there on the field. That's definitely one sticking point. Second sticking point is the detents. They need to get that fixed as well. Now, if we want to review this gun, as it is right now, am I happy with it? Not necessarily. I think it's really silly for a $1,500 gun. When you're on your way home, you got to pull over to the side of the road. Oops, I forgot. I need to pull my bolt a little bit out so that I don't ruin my detents. So the next time I go and play, my $1,500 gun is going to shoot just fine. That's really silly. Fix that. And I think that, you know, this is going to do really well. If we were in a perfect world, they came out with a new detents fix and they came out with the kit for the regulator. Would I recommend this gun for $1,500? Yes, it shoots really good. Okay, it feels really good in the hands, especially for me having bigger hands. You know, it feels good. It's got a great feed neck. It sits nice and low, and it's got that shot signature that many people have loved with the shocker and also at the Lux. You know, it feels good. One thing about the trigger too, the trigger, when you first see it in the pictures, you're like, oh, you know, that trigger is okay. When you actually feel it, that's a really good feeling trigger, and it's very easy to you know, walk extremely fast. There's a ton of room here in the trigger guard for your fingers to move around. The trigger is extremely light and snappy. It feels great. The trigger is very, very nice on this gun, and it's just, I mean, it's just wicked quick. It just works. The trigger just feels great on it. When I first saw it in the picture, I mean, I'm very, you know, usually a stickler for triggers, especially been shooting Bob Long for years. Has amazing triggers. Planet Eclipse has amazing triggers. Die, not very good triggers. MacDev, even worse triggers. But, you know, I'm a very big fan of nice triggers. The Vanquish definitely has a very nice trigger. Electronics are really easy to use. I love the pressure, you know, the pressure sensor that's on there. Even though the gun has a little bit of weight in it, 2 pounds, just under 2 pounds, 3 ounces, just under that. The weight, the regulator, which is one of the heavier parts, is actually located down low. So when you're actually snap shooting, you're snap shooting with the heavier part of the gun down at the very bottom. So it's not up high where you feel the weight go back and forth. The gun, when you're actually out there on the field, feels extremely light. And that's because above the regulator, you've got an electronics board, a hollow bolt, and a battery. That's it. Okay, there's no really other regulator, nothing else here. It's very, very light once you go above the regulator, because the regulator is down below, and that's where your bottle is at. So snap shooting with this gun feels great. You know, with that weight tucked down and out of the way, you just pivot around it when you come out and you snap shoot. It feels great. Running and gunning with this gun feels great. It shoots really nice when you've got fresh detents in it that aren't dented. Doesn't break any paint. Very smooth, predictable, quiet shot down the field. But you know, if you haven't bought this gun yet, I would say hold out until they come out with a detent fix and a rebuild kit. Other than that, probably, you know, Lux would probably be the way I go, just because you don't have to worry about pulling the bolt out and you can take the gun completely apart. That's probably the route I would go for right now. But once they do fix the detent issue and once they do give us a rebuild kit for the regulator, yeah, I would say jump on these. You know, and something else I'll tell you too, anytime a gun comes out that's brand new, there's a big shout out to ANSGear. It's one of the biggest supporters of the Tech B videos. Is anytime a gun comes out that's brand new, like the Vanquish, you know, or any of the other guns that are out there, LV1, you know, now you got the Geo 3.1, all these other guns that are coming out right now. You see the stock colors that get released. If you can wait an extra month or two, check on ANSGear's website, because they'll come out with some even cooler colors that nobody has other than ANSGear. And you can get yourself, for the same exact price that you would normally pay, you can get yourself an exclusive color scheme that's exclusive only to ANSGear, and you're going to have something that looks a lot different. Everybody at my field, they've got the orange, they've got the black, they've got the gray, and then I come out with this, you know, really pretty pink violet looking Vanquish. Everyone's like, where the hell did you get that? You know, got it from ANSGear, you know. So they got me a great price on this gun, so I was able to do the review on it. Big thank you to ANSGear, and I had to give them that shout out, because I mean, this is not a stock Empire color. Okay, this is a, you know, a pink Vanquish, and you don't even see this on Empire's website. You only see it on ANSGear. So that's just a little tip. You know, if you're saving your money for a gun and you really want to treat yourself, wait about a month after the gun is released. Go check ANSGear's website. You'll see some really cool colors that aren't on the manufacturer's website. But anyway, besides that, if you can get over the fact that you can't take apart the regulator, you only put a couple drops of oil in there, and it doesn't really bother you to, you know, when you're at the end of the day, to pull your bolt out and just leave it out just a little bit so you don't damage your detents. You know, it's going to shoot great. It shoots just like Shockers. It shoots just like Luxes. You can pull the bolt spring out there, what I like to call the cold weather bolt spring, out. See how your gun shoots without it. That may save your detents. That's about it. I mean, you know, shoots, you know, identical to a Lux, which is going to not surprise anybody, because the Lux, it's basically a Lux bolt that's inside there. So, but it's got a good clamping feed neck, got a good barrel system on here. I mean, everything about it. I mean, like I said, it's about 95% of super gun, other than those two little things. But if you can get over those last two things, I think you'll be really happy with it. If those two things really bother you, you may want to look at another gun. That's about where we leave on the Vanquish. So thanks for your time, guys. I really appreciate the support. And once again, big thank you to ANSGear for getting me a Vanquish. I had to go to ANSGear to get one because I couldn't get one from Empire. Thanks for tuning in.